Good afternoon. You're tuned in with the Encourage Services Show. I am your host, Encouragement Javi. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in with us today. And thank you so much for following us. When you email us or write comments, we always read them. Please continue to keep them coming so that we can know how we're doing and how we can continue to assist people in any way that we can to better serve and encourage the people. This evening we're going to be discussing rebuilding your life over. The title of the episode is Rebuilding Your Life Over. I'm going to give you a chance to get pencil and paper together if you wish. Some people like to get paper and pencil together and jot things down. If you want to do that, you may do so. So in the meantime, while you're doing that, because everybody isn't always prepared, I'm going to be discussing with you some things that we have going on here at Encouragement Services and how we operate. Encouragement Services name is really Encouragement Blossoms and Trauma Incorporated, and we say blossoms because really when you can encourage people and try to uplift them, to help them create their own happiness and work on steps of forgiveness and learning to love themselves, it can really blossom. Encouragement can really blossom in one's life. We are a Christian nonprofit family organization, a very small family organization, and we are a place where we help mend the hearts of the brokenhearted, a place without judging you, where you can be more open to be able to work on some obstacles that you would like in your life. And we are confidential. We keep everything confidential. And as always, our services are free of charge. So how we operate is there's an intake form, and there are 6 forms that you have to fill out. Those are for our records and also so that we can know how to serve you. We are a Christian organization, but we have a little line that says general. So if you wish not to receive any Christian material, that's fine, and it's just simply Bible scriptures. Sometimes we might have pamphlets with Christian material on it, and for some people they don't want to receive that, and since we'll allow you to come through the service without having to be a Christian or without wanting to receive it, all you got to do is check off that little option and that'll be fine. Sometimes we speak about Christian things, sometimes we don't. Tonight, for those people who are Christians, I might tie in rebuilding your life, so a couple of verses with this. But then for those who aren't, I may not say anything about it at all. Sometimes we have different episodes of things that are Christian and might say it on there or say it in the link. And then sometimes we don't. So I just wanted to prepare you before so you can know what you're getting into. If you wish to receive free encouragement services, you can call our toll number at 1-866 524-4828, extension 2836. Again, our number is 1-866 524-4828, extension 2836. And the number is international anywhere. Our main office number, if you want to receive some pamphlets information, or you just perhaps want to call that main line number or want to know more about the service organization, is 419-956-4172. Again, that number is 419-956-4172. And our email address, should you want to email us, is services@encouragementinthetrauma.org. ENCOURAGEMENTINTHETRAUMA.org. If you would like to visit our main website, that is encouragementinthetrauma.org. And also our second website is eCourage. It's Jixsy, Jigsy, Jixsy.com/encouragement. And we have another one at bravesites.com/ecourage. If the bravesites.com/ecourage isn't working, try ecourage.com/bravesites. But it should be bravesites.com/ecourage. But our main website is encouragementandtrauma.org. And on there it has a place where you can register. And register just simply means you can register for our free services or email us with any questions or concerns that you may have. Our encouragement services is a little bit different because we're geared towards trying to help people rebuild and refocus their life and getting their life on track as far as sins of the hearts, trying to walk in peace with yourself and learning to love yourself so that you can begin to pick up the pieces in your life and move forth with your life. So if that is something you're interested in, please do give us a call or email address. As well, we do have a program where we have an encouragement buddy program for those who may be going through a hard time, who might need an encouragement buddy or a listening ear or someone to call and check in on them maybe a couple of times a week. That service usually lasts anywhere from 3 months to a year. If you'd like to know more about the Encouragement Connections program, please let us know. Now, anyone can use the services. We are geared toward working with those who have had some type of emotional or mental, physical, or sexual trauma in their life, maybe as a child or as an adult. Sometimes people get into relationships and it can be traumatic for them, such as domestic violence cases. Sometimes people lose their loved ones and they just need an encouraging ear. And we are a confidential facility and a place where we do not judge you. I'm not shocked by anything anymore, so there is nothing that anyone can say that would make me stop looking at them a certain way. We are simply here to serve you, not to try to tell you what you did was right or wrong. That is certainly not our place. So, moving on with the show. The title of our show tonight, as I was saying, is Rebuilding Your Life Over. I am your host, Encouragement Javi. And the first thing I want to get you started on, because we have so many things to talk about tonight in such little time, is taking on a responsible life. There's so many things involved when you're trying to rebuild your life over again, such as good decision making, good choices, taking responsibility for your life. But in order to make good choices and decisions, you have to start taking responsibility for your life. So that is why we're talking and discussing about taking on a responsible life. So when I say that, in order to become a mature adult, there are some things that we have to put in place concerning being a responsible adult. One is a self-responsible life. In other words, we are responsible for our health, emotionally, mentally, sexually, physically, and spiritually. We're responsible for our life, how we choose to think and live, and our actions concerning the choices we choose to make. A lot of times when we have gone through different types of trauma, especially if it's been a long periods of time and we really haven't dealt with it like we should, we don't realize that we can choose to think and live for ourselves and make our own decisions. Sometimes we might stay in places where we allow people to manipulate us and mold us into what they want us to become. And one thing you want to do is, as you're transitioning and you're trying to rebuild your life and you're trying to take responsibility for your life, in order to create your own happiness for yourself, is you want to be responsible began to be responsible for your emotional health, your mental health, your sexual health, your physical and spiritual health, and your life. Now, this is going to take time, so I don't expect you to do it all at the same time. What I had to do personally for myself is I dealt with my emotions and my life and the spiritual part of it first all at one time. I had a friend who just mainly, even though she was focusing on the others just like I was, she had one main one that she was focusing on. Hers was her mentality, because she had a lot of distorted thinking due to her being in several abusive relationships with men. And what she had to do was get herself into some good counseling services, get in a couple of support groups. She began to read some books on distorted thinking and how to, she read a couple of good books by Nathaniel Brandon, who has a PhD, who helped her begin to transition to taking on a responsible life. Although she never met the man, I tell you, it's almost like all she did was talk about him. It was like non-stop. She could not stop talking about him and how much he changed her life through what he was saying. So maybe you're in a predicament where you want to work on everything, but you don't want to be overwhelmed, because the worst thing you can do in trying to create your own happiness is to make your life worse by trying to cram in everything that you need to work on. Because I find it where I have to work on my emotional health, my mental health, my sexual health, my physical health, my spiritual health, my life, and how I choose to think and live. And the actions concerning the choices that I've chosen to make and the ones that I'm going to make, and decisions. And that is a lot. And when you've had your life either taken or controlled, it is really hard to get back on track and get focused. So I would suggest you maybe start on 1 or 2. If you're comfortable with it, what I did besides working on the 3, I was working on all of them, but I focused mainly on the ones where I knew that I needed to work on at the most, which was my emotional and mental level and my spiritual life more. So what I would do to help grow my life in all of the areas, emotionally, mentally, sexually, physically, everything, is I started meditating. Sometimes I would sit at my desk and meditate. Sometimes I would cut on music and meditate. Sometimes I would walk around the house and just belly dance. And as I closed my eyes and belly dance, or had my eyes open and belly dance, I was meditating. Sometimes I do yoga and meditate, or do Qigong and meditate, or some Tai Chi and meditate. I made it as heavenly and purely as I wanted it to be, because when you're trying to work on yourself and begin to fix yourself, it's all about you and what makes you feel comfortable. What works for me may not work for you. I also read a couple of books. Some books I would read 3 chapters a day on the bus, walking down the street, and then having to look to make sure any vehicles didn't hit me. As I was having to wait to cross the street and then cross, get somewhere else on a red light, read more. Read more on the green light, and then when the red light came, cross. So it's however you want to do it. And one thing I did at night is, when my kids were a little bit younger, we had quiet time at a certain time every night, because I needed to spiritually take care of my mindset mentally. In other words, I had to turn my mind set off for a little bit. You know how your mind can keep going, but you're trying to rest, but it keeps going. And a lot of times it is because we've been so overwhelmed with something, or maybe our bodies were stressed and we didn't realize it. That has happened to me many a times, when my body was stressed and I didn't realize it was stress, but I felt fine. But my body was stressed and I just could not turn my mind off. And I'm thinking, what can I do to turn my mind off? And so I just needed to stop running fast, so fast paced. And I would have a certain time to meditate. And until that time came for us to have quiet time to meditate, I began to sing in my mind and to pray inside my mind instead of just praying out loud. And that calmed it a lot. You have to see what works for you. Maybe that works for you. One thing that I also did with emotionally healing and to gain back control of my life is that since I was so controlled in certain areas of my life and in my mental mindset and couldn't make certain choices for myself a lot of times growing up, I got to a point in my life where I said, I'm going to try something new. And what I began to do, I would take my kids to camp besides them going for a week. Sometimes we'd go together as a family. We'd try climbing. We would try climbing to horse riding. Sometimes we would go take the buses or trains to different chocolate candy factories and just visit all over. And that gave me energy, but more than anything, it helped emotionally and mentally healed me from some childhood scars. But although the scars was there, I mean the livelihood that I did not get from enjoying my life as a child like I really should have had. And spiritually, what I started doing, and this was even before I had children, but I did it after I had children, is going to different churches. I would sign up also for different organizations and different groups that has something about Native Americans, and would get to know Native American people, to other different groups, all because I just wanted to not just be on a spiritual path, but just learn as much as I could emotionally and mentally, as long as I kept it in a certain aspect of Christianity for me. So I've been like on this spiritual path probably since, I'd say, maybe 1998 or 2000, but in certain areas I can be into really depth of things than others. So you want to make sure that you realize and acknowledge that you're responsible for your health, emotionally, mentally, sexually, physically, spiritually, your own life, how you choose to think and live, and actions concerning the choices we choose to make. And as you begin to do that and accept that, it's very important that you begin to realize the choices you choose to make, not the choices that people force you into or made you do, but the ones that you have chosen to make and accept it. And if you're a Christian, repent of it if you need to, and move on with your life so that you can begin creating happiness in your life. And this is how you begin creating happiness in your life. It's by taking on a self-responsible life. And secondly, it would be understanding that dependence, passiveness, proactivity can have a great effect on how we handle our relationships in our life. Our finances, our emotions, our friendships, our families, obstacles, our happiness, and our values and beliefs. I'm going to have to say that again so that you can fully understand. We can choose to be reactive in our life or proactive in our life. Say, for example, if we have had someone in our life where they've made most of the choices for us, or we've been like handicapped and chose to be dependent on the person, like an emotional attachment, and then realize that we can choose to live on our own and make good choices for ourselves, and we're trying to break free, and we recognize that. One thing we have to recognize is, if you want to continue in the same transition of that life cycle, then if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get it. But if you want to stop doing the same old thing and continue to, and you want to move forward, continue to move forward and transition in a new life cycle and start taking responsibility for your life, then one thing you have to do is acknowledge where you've been dependent at and where you've been passive in some of your perhaps personalities or character at, because we're all at different levels. I only know mine that I need to work on, and know mine because I have chosen to work on myself. When you choose to work on yourself, you'll begin to know yourself more. You'll begin to find some things out about you that you didn't know maybe you like or didn't like. You'll begin to take on life and enjoy life more and positively, which will bring in being proactive about your life. You'll begin to decide, should I make this decision? And it's a good idea to pray about your decisions before you make them. Why am I making this decision? If it's a quick decision, how long should I think about it? Well, who is this going to affect? And if I make this decision and I do it, how is it going to affect me 5 years from now? Sometimes we don't think about how things will affect us 5 to 10 years from now. And I'll give you a good example of this. I had a friend who decided that she was going to get married. And they'd known each other for about 10 or 15 years. And she said, well, I think it's okay. I'm going to get married. And I said, well, how will that affect you? You think 5 to 10 years from now? And she thought I was being negative, because there are some people who do get negative and envious and just do not want to see you happy and enjoying life. And so I went back and recapped to her what exactly I meant, and she said, I know what you meant, but I'm ready to do this, and this is something I want to do, and you're not going to talk me out of this. And so I just left it, because when people are like that, you just, no matter what you say, you cannot talk them out of it. But I can tell that the relationship probably wasn't going to last 10 or 20 years. I put it at the most 3. It lasted about 5.5 years, but they actually stayed together for 10, but the relationship was good for 5.5 years. And she'd emailed me the other day and said, you and a couple other people were right. Just because you know someone and they've been living in your life for a long time and they've been a part of your life does not mean they need to be together. They were just incompatible. They were both very loving people, very sweet, gentle people, but they were just not meant for each other. And maybe she could not see that, and she had mentioned that she was afraid to get to know someone else because she felt like she needed to have children earlier before she hit her late 20s. And so sometimes we can make decisions being reactive about something that we could see happening, and what you want to do is to make decision being proactive. That's very, very important, such as when you look at how you're going to handle your relationships, how you're going to handle life, how you're going to handle your finances, your emotions, your friendships. Because sometimes when our friendships, we outgrow people. We don't outgrow everybody, but there are some people we do outgrow, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Sometimes certain friendships come in, and maybe you outgrow someone, maybe that person outgrow you, maybe you all don't have the same interests anymore, and you have to decide, well, I'm going to react and be mean, or I'm going to be proactive and say, it seems as if we don't have a whole lot in common anymore, but I sure do like talking to you sometimes, and be proactive in a positive way about it versus reacting to something that used to be there that's not there like it was anymore. Also, you want to be proactive with your family and with your happiness, your values, and your beliefs. How you feel about things. And when I say beliefs, we can have beliefs, but it does not mean that we have to make people believe the way that we do. We want to begin to respect people's boundaries, but also have our boundaries, but respect people's boundaries. Because those of us who are Christians and we're trying to learn to grow, especially going through a lot and trying to rebuild our lives over again, the Bible does talk about loving your neighbor as you love yourself. And so, just because someone doesn't believe like we do, even as a Christian, does not mean we have to, so to speak, tell them like it is or whatever. We want to be respectful and be gentle and agree to disagree in a peaceful way, because what you're trying to aim to do is have more peace in your life and more joy in your life. You don't want to create more hecticness in your life, because you've already had a hectic life. We've already had a bad start from maybe growing up the way that we did, and you're trying to move forward. So you don't want to get in the middle and get stuck, because many times we get stuck in our lives simply because someone maybe do not do things the way we do, and we might tend to get offended by that. A long time ago, I share with you something that had happened to me. I had a friend. Well, she is still my friend. We don't talk as much. I have some friends from 20 years ago, from 30 years ago, 35 years ago. We don't talk as much. But she believed in going to a place that I didn't think was good. And it was not a bad place. She just simply believed that if she wanted to get to know another faith, even though she was a Christian, that she should go to these these Muslim mosques, and I don't have anything against Muslim people, and teach her child about it. Well, I, on the other hand, believed that that's fine if that's what she wanted to do. Maybe that was not sin for her, but it was sin for me. So what I would do when they had in the community different religions getting together and trying to work together in peace and learning about each other, I would take my children there, where it was open, where there was Christians, Muslims, Buddhist people, all kinds of different people, where it was to me, an environment that was much calmer, so that they maybe could learn. And we did that maybe once a year, so that they can understand about how different religions operate and different groups operated. She got really angry with me because she thought that if she was doing it, that everybody should do it. And you have to be really careful with that, otherwise you're going to get offended all the time or defensive with people when they might not agree the same way you agree. It doesn't mean that they think that their beliefs is more superior than yours or anything like that, but maybe they have a different way of looking at things. Maybe that's not for them. Maybe they want to have their family do something in a more way that they consider constructed, but they're not saying that your way is constructed. So we have to be careful with that and learn to own what are our values and our beliefs, because sometimes we get so many people instilling values and beliefs in us that, and which can be good, but it's not very encouraged. They don't really, sometimes, not all people, encourage us to develop our own values and beliefs and things of that nature, of such. So I have the great opportunity of encouraging my children about values and characters. CharacterCounts.org is a very good website. CharacterCounts.org. I started out when they were 5 and 7 years old, printing little things offline there about character, because character is totally different than personality traits and values and belief. It helps make up a person. But I began to teach them that they need to form their own opinions and beliefs, and why is values important to them. so that they can understand what that means. And every now and then we have that conversation. We don't always have that conversation. So I'm just simply saying you may want to just take your proactive approach however you want to, because it's about you and trying to rebuild your life and reshape your life. Thirdly, if you tend to take on other people's values instead of yours, it can view it in detail how and what you think about yourself. In other words, when you tend to dress yourself up with other people's life and you don't try to get a life of your own and learn how to develop your own values and why certain character traits are important to you, sometimes we can begin to be dependent on other people. And there are many people out there that feed off manipulating other people and molding them into what they want them to be. And you certainly don't want that if you've already came out of traumatic crisis situations or been in them, or been in situations where people have been manipulating and controlling you. You want to see or think about, why are you believing or acting that way? What would happen if you formed your own belief system? What would happen? What belief systems would you come up with? You can write that down. Get a piece of paper and write down, rebuilding my life, taking on a self-responsible life. What would happen if I written my own belief system down? And why? Why is it important to me to write down my own belief system, or better yet, have a belief system? Why am I believing the belief system of my family? And when I say that, I'm saying our decisions and our choices, because what I do sometimes from time to time, but I did it a lot when my kids was growing up, I spoke with them about choices and decisions and why we do things a certain way, but I gave them room to be individuals because they were both very different. And so it kind of helped shape them to form what matters to them most. What belief system do they want, so that they can begin to be more proactive in life? Because this is very important, because I didn't want to raise children that would begin to have to be dependent on people to keep them, to keep them healthy, like a drug addict. So I wanted to help them, because sometimes drug addicts feel like they're staying healthy when they're going somewhere to get a fix. But I didn't want that for them. But I'm sure I have much more to work on. None of us is perfect. So besides taking on that type of responsibility, attitude, and doing something with it and rebuilding your life over again, I wanted to touch on creating a mission statement for your life, because it's important that as you're trying to move on with your life, rebuild your life, whether it's you coming out from a divorce, whether you're just learning to deal with depression and trying to make steps toward that, I don't know, only you know the situation that you're in. You want to decide, what do I want in my life? How do I want to win in life? And sometimes how you want to win in life, or what you call winning in life, is not what other people call winning in life. For example, some people call winning in life teaching and training their children and maybe trying to succeed at a stable job so that they can support themselves, take care of themselves and their children, and trying to strive to be healthy. And to them, that's success. For some people, being successful is being very wealthy with money. For some people, being successful is being married and keeping their mate happy and their children happy. And that's okay. Everybody is different. Success is different for everybody. You have to decide what makes you happy, because we don't want to build our life of happiness off of other people. Some people have children to make them happy. Some people get married to have people make them happy. And happiness is an inner thing. If we don't learn to work inwardly on our feelings and our heart and the anger that we may have had, or the hatred and bitterness that maybe that's there through whatever has caused it, and learn how to bring that out and confront it and work on it so that we can become better people to better ourselves inwardly. We're just going to destroy things. It's not going to help to have children to make us happy, or to have mates to make us happy, because we're not going to be happy when we do that, because we're going to feel like if we're not a failure, the person is a failure, or the children are a failure. So, if you want to get out a piece of paper, you can start writing down, creating a mission statement, however you want to do it. Some people do it in their mental mindset. Some people have cell phones and they go to Google and get on Google Doc or something they do and draw. Excuse me. But this is however you want to do it, because it's your life. We want to talk about the types of space one creates in life inwardly. That's important, because we're working on negative spaces this month. Well, we're working on negative spaces every month, but particular this month is unforgiveness, bitterness, hatred, unresolved issues, and uncontrollable anger. So those are negative spaces, and what you want to do is replace unforgiveness with forgiving oneself, which is a positive space, and bitterness with accepting yourself, hatred with unresolved issues dealt with, unresolved issues with creating calmness in your life, and uncontrollable anger with maintaining self-control. And I believe it's in Galatians 8 where it talks about the fruit of the Spirit, if you're a Christian, and about meekness and self-control and kindness. And what I had to learn to do is either I read that every day, or the book of Proverbs. It's a good book to read and go over, where it talks about being responsible for your life, creating your own happiness, loving yourself, because you want to create your own mission statement. If you're dealing with inward problems, you want to write down, what inwardly do I long for? Because a lot of times the root core of our problems is what are we longing for inwardly. Maybe that's your mission statement. Maybe you could write down, I long for happiness, or I long for peace, or I long for calmness, or I long to be stable emotionally, mentally, or I long to be stable economically or socially. Whatever that is, or if it's all of them, because I certainly don't know. At least if you start out with one, you can put a little circle around it and start putting little stems around it by drawing a line like a tree, and write, okay, if it's peace, well, in order to have peace, I need to love myself. And then I draw another little line. Besides loving myself, if I'm trying to get to peace, I need to become more proactive inwardly and work on the sins of the heart. This, for me. And then I go on down and pick some more and just work off that thing for the whole month, and every day I'll look at it however you want to do it. Now, this is what negative space creates. It creates unhealthy habits, which can be negative stressors, unhealthy eating. Sometimes I eat unhealthy, but not a whole lot anymore, but I still need to lose some weight. And one thing you might want to do is Leslie Sampson Walk at Home video is really good. If you have access to a computer, just going to YouTube and downloading some of her videos, or just watching some, is a great source if you don't have the income to purchase some. But also Amazon.com have great stress videos to yoga videos. If you just type in stress videos, yoga videos, Tai Chi videos, Leslie Sampson videos. It would take a while, but you can find some on there anywhere from $1.99 to $5, and the shipping might be an extra $2 to $5, but it would be certainly worth it if that is something you're interested in. They even have dancing videos on there if that's what you're trying to do, like dance disco from the 80s. To get disco is really good to shake your body, move around, get some energy going, because some people stay really, really tired a lot and don't have energy, and sometimes it's because they're not moving around. And if that's something you're interested in, you can certainly look at that. But negative stressors help produce bad memories, hatred toward others who you do not agree with. So if you want to get rid of the negative stresses, I just mentioned some really positive things that can help you create more positive space in your life. Then you can move toward where it says inward anger. I'm sorry, I'm reading out from my PowerPoint. It comes from indecisiveness, decisions, just controlling or aggressively being demanding, and it just does not help. So sometimes exercising, meditating, reading the Bible, maybe just spending some time by yourself and turning off the phone or unplugging the phone or cutting it off if you can. And it's just your time for maybe that hour can really help. Now we want to talk about what positive space create. If you're after peace, when you're deciding to open up your heart for a newness or change to take place in your life, and recognizing how unhealthy eating, being indecisive, or handling stress the wrong way can cause buildup in your life, and how you respond to others. So when you begin to recognize that, it'll help put some things in perspective. We have this really cool episode on Spreaker.com/user/encouragement from the eCourage Services show. And if you go to creating positive space, that's a good one. And commitment to yourself, I think it's about 3 episodes of that, and living your life full. But creating positive space in your heart and life is a change, and it's a commitment to yourself, and it can really help you begin to grow as a person. We also have create everlasting peace in your life. Creating everlasting peace, that's an episode, but as you're creating everlasting peace in your life one day at a time, it can help you do these here steps, which is you want to look into your own heart and see what negative space you have created in your life and be real about it. Then step 2, you want to be open-hearted and acknowledge to yourself what negative space you have allowed in your life. And step 3, you want to be open to change and learn to create a positive space in your heart and life. And as you're doing this, you can begin to write down your mission statement, because it's all about you and what you would like to work on within your own life. And you might want to answer 3 questions, but you don't have to. What is in my heart that I need to work on? How do I want to grow as a person? What things do I need to let go of in my life so that I can move on with my life? The questions were, what is in my heart that I need to work on? How do I want to grow as a person? What things do I need to let go of in my life that I can move on with in my life to help me grow spiritually, emotionally, and mentally? And as you answer those questions, you want to begin designing your own mission statement. One of my mission statement is, I am a person who loves myself. My goal is to create peace in my life and happiness. Therefore, I will start creating everlasting peace in my life by using more self-control in my eating habits, having better control of my anger, and reducing the amount of stress in my life. And as you have gone through things in your life, you'll see that's important. Now, if you would like to, receive our PowerPoints or Microsoft documents, give us a call at 1-866-524-4828 extension 2836, or email us at services@encouragementendedtrauma.org. As always, we offer free encouragement, and you can visit us at encouragementendedtrauma.org. We are getting ready to close. Thank you for following us. Continue to let us know how we're doing. Until next time, this was the episode Rebuilding Your Life Over. I am your host, Encouragement Javi. May you have a great night.